Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and I'm back. I'm going to work on another reel in a bag, actually 2 reels in a bag project. This comes from Zeke. Zeke sells antiques, and he tells me to do the best I can to clean these up. He got these and they're not working. Can I help him out? And if I need to, make 2 out of 1. Well, we're going to see what we can do. They're both Mitchell 300As, and these generally can be put back together, can be serviced, and can be cleaned. So let's start with the one that's working, I believe. If it's working, we'll show you a little bit of a different way to get it done. This one's missing the handle, I guess, but otherwise it's turning. And I've done enough videos to show that we can restore this one. So we're going to just put this one aside for a moment. We'll go over to the one that's in pieces here. We'll show you how this reel comes together, how you clean it up, and how you get it working again. So this is a Mitchell 300, and kind of looks like the A version because of the writing there. I'm going to start by removing the spool. I have a little tool that's actually a Mitchell tool. It's needed because you have a deep cup for the spool which rides inside of this, and you can't reach that with a box wrench. If you tried to go over the top, you're just not going to be successful. So Mitchell made this little tool. You don't need this tool. You can get a regular deep socket from any ratchet wrench set, and that'll certainly suffice. Just put it on the end of a ratchet wrench. But in this case, it's kind of fun because, well, Mitchell made it, and it's a Mitchell reel, so what could be better? I'm going to put that right into that same container with all of the other pieces. Interesting of note, if you ever look at the back end of this, you'll notice that you have a forked screw, and Mitchell makes another tool, or maybe the same tool just a little bit differently, that actually has that forked screwdriver that goes around the stud of the bail. Now this is a little bit bigger. This is the saltwater one, but that's how you get that out if you were ever wondering how do you get that bail screw out when it's got the bail arm screw coming through there, stud. All right, we're going to check to see if this is firing. It's firing. We're in good condition there. We're going to take the bowl off then. You're going to have a baffle plate, and in this case a dirty interior. And pay attention to what's on the back of the baffle plate. You want to make sure that you put the same washers in here. There's usually 1 or 2. In this case it's just dirt. Zeke didn't tell me where he got these from, but he resells. So I'm just going to think that for now, he purchased them and wants to sell them, and just wants them cleaned up and made ready to go fishing again. This is an interesting bail trip assembly. This is how your bail is going to fire. If you're wondering what these little pieces are here, they're going to come up and hit the ramp, and they're going to fire. I'll show you on the back side what's going to hit. Right now I'm just doing my best to clean it up. I don't want to put this flat on the surface because that ramp is there, but we'll do our best to clean it up. So when you open this bail up, you're going to notice that you have this little trail arm here, and right here, that's what's going to bump. So it's going to hit the bottom of that baffle plate, and it's going to bump like this, and that's going to fire your bail. Just in case you were curious. All right. I noticed that as I was doing that a little washer fell out. That washer belongs around this post here. So I'm going to, before I lose that, I'm going to take a little bit of oil. This is penetrating oil. I use it as a degreaser. I'm going to clean out the socket below because it's got some old grease in there. Also going to use a little pick here because it's kind of stuck to the sides. And now I'm going to put that little series of washers back on there, just so that they don't get lost. In this case there was 2 of them on there. And because there's play in these reels when Mitchell made them, sometimes you'll find 1, sometimes you'll find 2. And that applies to here as well as that baffle plate. That's why I said on the baffle plate, make sure you see the number of washers. And if you're changing the dynamics, if you're changing the rotor on this reel, you probably going to have to reset the washers there. We have a lot of dirt inside the bowl, so let's get rid of that. And while I'm doing that, I want to thank our first responders and essential personnel and everybody involved in keeping us safe during the pandemic. This darn thing just refuses to quit. I don't know how the folks get there every day and don't quit, because it's quite stressful, regardless of what position you're in: medical, uniformed services, rescue and fire, and hospitals and long-term care facilities, and just getting up every day and going there. That's stressful, and we appreciate everything you're doing and hanging in there, keeping it safe for us to kind of do what we can do to approximate what would be normal. All right, we've cleaned up that side. We want to clean up the back side here. Then we can go ahead and take this. There's a little bit more I just noticed there as I tapped it down. So let's get all that dirt out. Dirt's the enemy of a fishing reel, so make sure that you get what you can out of there. And we're going to use some fishing reel oil on that assembly there. And boy, I still got a little bit in there. So I don't know where this has been nestled, but it certainly has got a lot of dirt in it. Okay, I'm going to just go ahead and put this back on. Before I put it back on, I want to just make sure that the teeth inside the rotor are clear. I'm going to use a wire brush and that paper towel to get all the stuff off there. It's coming off in blobs, so it hasn't really been too clear here. I'm going to just scrape that out with a pick. And if you'd like to see reels repaired, restored, or simply serviced, then I would ask you to subscribe to my channel. And if you subscribe to my channel, please hit the notification button. That way you'll see everything that I post. I work on all kinds of things, including things like this that are reel in the bag projects. I try to do my best to keep the reels working and to give them a second chance, hence the name Second Chance Tackle. Oh boy, we had a lot of old grease in this one. Hose that down a little bit. Let's just go pick that out a little bit more. I have no doubt that this will come back together again. He said take the reels and if you can make 2 out of 1. Well, I have enough Mitchell parts that I can make 2 out of 2. We're missing a little handle stud there. I'll find that stud for that other reel that we showed you, but this one looked more in need of some work, so I figured we'd go ahead and do this one for the video. Get some grease on there. I only recommend fishing reel greases. I'm using a Penn Precision reel grease for this project. It doesn't have to be that, but it does need to be a fishing reel grease. While you have that grease brush out, make sure that you get grease on the inside stud where this is going to ride. Come on up and put your rotor back on now. Give it a spin, make sure that you got it on right. Go grab those washers. In this case, we have the 3 washers. Put them inside, just like that. And then on the baffle stud, you're going to notice there's a little stud sitting out here. That needs to go inside. Just pulled all of those up. That needs to go inside the slot in this reel. So I'll show you that in just a moment. Let's put these back on. There's a slot right here. The slot in the baffle plate needs to go inside that slot. Angle line down. Okay, then we can install. Grab the nut. Take your deep socket or your Mitchell tool or whatever you may be using. Turn it around. Now we've oiled the trip arm on a bail. Just a quick word about bails. You do not need to remove them unless there's a broken spring or something. I can't tell you how many of these reels I get in asked to reset the bail, and then make sure it fires. And this one fires easily, just with that trip. We're going to take this off now. We're going to come down and we're going to service the inside of this reel. A word here, these things come through the case. Sometimes they do get tight. If you're finding that it's tight, go spray it with penetrating oil on both sides and walk away from it. In this case, I think we'll be able to do it. Other things to know when you're doing this is use the appropriate size screwdriver blade. If you go too small, you risk butterflying these blades, wingtipping them if you will. And if that's the case, you're going to have a very difficult time getting it back in. This is set up as a Phillips head screwdriver or a flat-bladed. I'm using a flat-bladed here. Some of the earlier Mitchells, it's just a flat-bladed screwdriver. So just pay attention to what you got. Make sure that the one is the appropriate thickness. I'm going to take those two off. I'm going to clean the rest of this case out. Now, there was a lot of dirt up top. It probably was that this reel was probably sitting in on a creek bed or something, and just got all that dirt in there. That's one of the disadvantages of a bowl where the spool comes inside. Water comes in, runs down, and has nowhere to go, and generally it'll accumulate underneath like we saw here. All right, that's all cleaned up. I want to take my brush, get a little bit of grease into the channel here. That's the only part that's going to have a moving part. You don't need to put grease on the side of the cases. You want to take this off and make sure that's clean. If it is, this is the only spot where it's going to be touching there, so that's all you need to do. We'll go ahead and reinstall this. And it's a good time to tell you if you have questions on a fishing reel. Maybe you're working on one and you're stuck. Or maybe you just have some questions about a particular reel and its history and its manufacturer and, well, whatever. I do try to answer questions. And if you leave them in the comments section of this video, I do try to respond to them most mornings. So your response is usually maybe 24 hours later at worst. Every now and then I'll be out and about, maybe fishing or something, and don't have a time to get that answer right to you, but I do try to get those answers. Okay, we have a series now. We have our plate in the back. Aha. Okay, aha, he said. We are missing an anti-reverse dog here. So we'll go try and find the... This is interesting. So a lot of folks lose this little washer here. You can see it right here. That actually belongs on the gear post here. So if you find that little washer and you wonder where it goes, well, that's where it goes. I'm going to clean this up. And we'll try and get a dog. And we'll come on back and do the rest of this assembly. Well, it's been a little bit of time, but I need to do a better job of organizing my Mitchell parts. I think that's the message here. But at any rate, I settled on one of the newer style plastic anti-reverse dogs with the little flat spring kind of thing. We'll show you how to install that. Now this is an interesting piece here. If you ever have a pen reel that uses a flat spring and you can't get it any longer because they're not available, you can substitute this. You can cut the tip off here where it bends. You'll have a flat spring, and you can wrap that around your dog in the post, and you'll have an anti-reverse there. Totally separate reels, bush fix, but I thought I would mention that. All right, we've cleaned everything else up while I was away. I'm going to start by just putting a little bit of grease onto a couple of key points. We'll start here. Come up top, make that gear, and put a little bit where that anti-reverse dog is going to run. We've cleaned and inspected the gear. I want to get grease onto the inside and grease on the outside. Main gear is going to drive the spool, and it's going to drive the oscillation gear. There's two functions to this one. That's why you have two gears here. Once you do that, come on in the back and get a little bit of grease onto the shaft. Put the main gear in. Just like that. That's how you seat the main gear. Next up then we have the top gear. This is going to drive the spool. Get some grease onto there even though we've greased the spool. And as we mentioned, the main gear is going to drive this. So in the back there's a little gear here. And that's where that washer is going to keep it off the case. So put that on next. Now some of the earlier Mitchell 300s have a different gear up top here. Just a note to self, if you're looking for the gears, this one is different. Okay, so we've installed the main gear and the driver for the spool gear up top. Just make sure it's working, give it a turn, make sure that they're spinning. Now we want to put that anti-reverse in. And the anti-reverse that I'm using here has that flat spring. There's a little post that it goes on, just like that. Now we're going to put that over the post inside the case. And we're going to take this spring, we're going to bend it up to rest inside the other case, just like that. So that's a hard one to kind of figure out unless you know where it goes, because there is no pronounced place to embed this spring here. It just rides on the inside of the lip of that case. Let's take the transition gear then. I'm going to put a little bit of grease onto the main and a little bit on the shaft. We're going to put the transition gear on. We want to do the same thing here. We want to test a couple of things. We might test that the anti-reverse is working, that the transition gear is working, and that the main gear is working. And I'm going to put the handle on. We'll just give it a couple of cranks. And you can just hear it humming away there. All right, so now we come over to the other part of the reel. Now we're going to take our axle shaft, make sure that that's clean. If it's gummed up, it's not going to slide through that back end very easily. Let's get a little grease where it matters. I'll come on top here and insert that down. When that comes down, you're going to take your little grid, whatever this is called, I've forgotten. That point goes into the axle shaft to hold that. Then it rides inside that carrier there. Now we can take the oscillation gear, and you want to set that and make sure that it's firing properly. If you misinstall it and it doesn't go up and down, you need to change the orientation on this wing. Now there's 3 studs. I like to start it in the down position. Each of those studs goes to the outside. And that generally is the right answer in terms of how to get this seated properly. Okay, just put some grease on that. Let's put our cover back on and see how we did. I keep forgetting this is the one with the little water gasket there, so let's go do that. So you can find these reels everywhere. There were so many of these reels made at the time that they're just everywhere. I just noticed we don't have side plate screws for this. Well, we'll go get some screws too. Let's give it a run. Look at that reel. Wow, cool. All right, I'll be back to get those side plate screws and complete the project. Okay, so I got the 3 screws, I put them in, and how did it turn out? Well, beautifully. So that's how you do it. That's how you find a reel in a bag, and you go on ahead and you fix that up. So we had 2 of them. Here's the other one. Doing everything it should. It was missing the handle. We found a replacement stem for that. Now Zeke has got 2 reels ready to go fishing or ready for resale, depending on what it is that he decides to do with these. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're a first responder, again, thank you for everything it is that you do. And please, everybody, stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.